one of the key differences, because to understand the value that a person with my background brings to the table is to understand the uniqueness and differences between what I do and my background versus your general practitioner CPA. They understand and are taught, as was I, generally accepted accounting principles, so they understand how to prepare a balance sheet, how to prepare income statements and cash flow statements, and to do that according to the financial rules, so to speak.
Okay.
They also have studied the tax code and absolutely understand how to minimize and maximize taxes for most individuals and businesses, and how to prepare tax returns. So I have done that. That has been part of my background. But in addition, where I kind of veered off is this very specific forensic/litigation consulting area. I have done white-collar crime investigations, various other forensic accounting analyses for commercial litigation or shareholder disputes, a number of different arenas. I've done numerous business valuations, and I've been extensively trained in mediation. So those skills bring a whole other level of understanding to the table when someone is looking at their divorce, or attorneys are looking at issues for a client's divorce. Having that very unique combination of skills and training is really the difference between what your general CPA will have versus the background I do. In addition, the training I have is generally not had by most attorneys. So they really appreciate all this insight. And it might just be, towards the end of the case or even into the middle of the case, or they give me a call and say, we're looking at this or we're looking at that, what do you think? And I give them a couple of hours, and, it gives them some additional insight that they may not have had before. As a financial expert, I am in no way replacing the attorney. I am supplementing a skill set. Their skill set is vital. My skill set is unique enough that those hours that they'd be spending doing what I do and not probably being as well trained in it, I'm supplementing what they do. I enhance the knowledge and the thoroughness and the understanding of the case, and we work as a team so that the clients are getting the best out of their attorney and the best out of me, and then they have the full picture so that when they're making decisions, they understand all the different consequences of their decisions. Therein lies the misconception and the wrong premise that this is just one more person I have to pay, because the truth of the matter is they will pay their attorneys to get through this process. And having a financial expert such as myself involved, what you're doing is creating a team approach. And so instead of the attorney or both of the attorneys in a collaborative case, for example, working on these same financial issues and looking at the same documents and trying to reach conclusions at, let's say, two attorneys, that could be, realistically about $600 or more per hour, I do that work for $175 to $200 per hour. So right off the bat, that's a third of the cost. The work that I do isn't in addition to what attorneys do. It replaces portions of what they do because I do it better. And so then they rely on me as a financial expert to help them apply the law to all the details, of that particular financial case. That's one substantial way that money is saved, and a great deal of time, because sometimes, especially if it's litigation versus a collaborative setting, you receive tons of documentation that's really irrelevant, or unimportant to the case. If you don't have an astute eye and a more forensic approach, you can waste a lot of the client's money on fruitless exercises. So, I'm able to sift through that pretty quickly, or I would say relatively quickly. The other way that a financial expert in divorce, for example, can help a client save on fees is that I'm going to look at a lot of different areas. So let's say we're talking about even a division of assets. The attorney who may not be thinking about all the financial pieces, well, how will that be taxed in the future? What's the tax effect now? Are they really getting the distribution they think they're getting? So they may be able to save in other ways. Or let's say we're talking about support. Well, how will they maximize their family's finances instead of the IRS's finances? So there are a lot of avenues that I'll be looking at. The attorney generally, or even your general accountant may not really be thinking about in different ways to structure a settlement that could have major tax implications. Financially, from a purely financial perspective, there are certainly simple divorces. But a divorce is not just about finances typically, and there's so much emotion and history and fear of the future that really there aren't many divorces that I would consider to be simple because of all the other pieces, real life human pieces that are part of it.
Okay.
And so I may be able to take a very neutral, objective perspective. Sometimes it takes clients a while in, a few meetings with me or a couple of meetings so that I can slowly coach them into understanding, what the realities are. Sometimes you just can't do that, immediately and have the client accept that because they're not ready. Or they have, their father in the background telling them one thing, or, the girlfriend, or, the business colleague. So, there are a lot of white elephants in the room that sometimes, it's a process to isolate those and put them in perspective, because each divorce is definitely unique. If they're unsophisticated, or even if they are sophisticated financially, because of their emotional state, they might be kind of entrenched in a certain position that is really not going to serve them. And because I'm a neutral and I'm not necessarily their particular advocate, I can help coach them to understand that, well, you can stay in that position and you can spend, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 fighting for that position, but it's really not going to be fruitful. Or at the end, you might spend 20 to get back 5. So I bring a certain common sense kind of approach and practical approach that isn't always there. I have plenty of clients that come in and say, well, this is really simple. We've already identified, we're doing 50-50 and we already know what we're doing. We don't really need a financial person. And then I ask some follow-up questions. And for example, I have a surgeon, and the husband's a surgeon. The wife is a stay-at-home mom, and he has multiple practices. So in their mind, they think they've figured out that it's 50-50. We've already decided what's the problem. Well, you have multiple businesses you're invested in. What are the values of those businesses? What type of income is being kicked off? Is it income? Is it a return of investment? What percentage should be for husband? What percentage is for wife? What portion is included for child support? I mean, there are a lot of underlying issues that on the surface the couple may think are simple. Now, there are some cases that are very simple and don't necessarily require financial expertise other than going to their accountant and making sure they're, handling the tax side appropriately. But yes, there are cases that are Very simple. Most of the cases that I deal with, the client might think it's simple, but it really isn't. A good portion of my practice is mediation, and so the couple will come to me and work with me first. Sometimes they'll go to their attorney, and the attorney will say, you're really not ready to come talk to me yet. Go meet with Christiana, have her handle the financial piece, and then come to me, and then we can wrap up the joint parenting agreement or what other issues might be out there. But a good portion of my practice, as I said, is this mediation where the couple works with me directly. We really come to settlement, preliminary, but pretty solid settlement agreements regarding the financial side, and then they go to their attorney. So if they're of modest means, that's the most economical way to get through this process, because they can both work with me or individually, one of the parties, and my rate is going to be probably a fourth of what they're going to be paying between their